Hi, everyone. I'm Monsignor Jim Vaughn. Welcome to Good News. As always, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Karen Danker-Smith, to our show. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you,
good?
Monsignor?
Doing very, very well.
Great.
Everything is going great.
Glad
We're
to
just
hear
talking
it.
about movies. I mean, I have not seen a movie in so long. It's kind of frightening. Do you go to the movies?
Nope.
It's hard when you're a mom, I guess, to get the time to go, right?
Unfortunately, the only movies we go to are the ones with the kids, and
Yeah.
they are usually very painful to sit through.
It's interesting because I think there are a lot of movies about triumph over tragedy.
Oh,
and those are
sure.
like the big inspirational
Yes.
kind of movies, right? Ultimately, I mean, that's what like
Absolutely.
The Lion King is about, triumph over
Yeah.
tragedy.
And I love when it's a true story. Those are
Yeah.
always my favorite.
Well, The Lion King's not a true story.
No, I know.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but
Okay, thank
that's
you.
a cartoon.
Thank you.
But there are ones that are, the true stories are really.
Yeah, those are always get me. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a couple like that's kind of. I was thinking of that because we're kind of like in that mode today of triumph over tragedy. People who've kind of put their lives together after difficulty.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's kind of an interesting thing. Like we have a gentleman who has had a terrible accident, was hit by a car, and has come back amazingly from terrible disaster. And we have another person who has lost his sight, and again, taking the situation and recognizing that God has not abandoned him, and
Yes.
and allowing his gifts to
Yep.
continue to flourish in the midst of it all. And we all have that in the sense that we triumph over difficulty in our lives. I mean, the struggle is always there. And if you're an athlete, I mean, you're the athlete of the two of us. You know, there's a certain constant kind of triumphing that you're looking to do, right?
Yeah, and
You
I'll
keep
tell
with it.
you with my own personal story, with what happened with my son Gavin when he had tumors in his leg and was able to overcome that. I was able to take that and say, okay, well, now we need to do something positive with this, with what happened to him and what we went through. And as an athlete, I can do that when I do
Yeah.
races and I can raise money for the hospital that helped him. And it does put a new spin on things.
Sure.
And it also helps you. It helps me when I'm running and I'm exhausted and I don't think I can go on anymore. I think about all of those people.
That
who have-
inspiration, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's why I love this show so much. And I love these stories in particular. I always leave thinking, you know, everybody has something they're struggling
Right,
with.
and we can get through this,
And
right?
we can. We
Yeah.
can turn it around.
I agree.
Yeah.
For me, it's triumph over spaghetti. I'm winning.
You are. You're doing
A
great.
little.
You're
Winning
doing
a
great.
little. We'll see how things go. But we're going to take a look today really at that gift, the gift of triumphing over the tragedy and difficulty that life presents to us, recognizing that God's always with us, walking that road with
You
us.
better believe it.
All right, let's
That's
get going. In 2006, our next guest was hospitalized and lost his sight due to a dangerous strain of fungal meningitis. Suddenly becoming blind and having to learn to operate in a sighted world was challenging and often frustrating, yet he was determined to make improvements every day, not only for his own life, but for the lives of the sight-impaired community. Let's take a look at a video that's short but beautiful about the organization he started.
When I went blind unexpectedly, it felt like I was in free fall. At first, it was really hard to tell which end was up. I didn't think I was going to land on my feet. Sometimes being blind can make you feel isolated. My blind spot believes that access to the right tools creates ability and promotes infinite possibilities. Avenues to employment can be complicated for the disabled. There's still so much out there that is not accessible to us, especially those of us who are blind. At My Blind Spot, our vision is to see that people of all abilities have access to the tools they need to find gainful employment, something I think a lot of us take for granted. The day that My Blind Spot makes that happen, we'll all be walking on air.
From this wonderful organization, My Blind Spot, please welcome Albert Rizzi and Anthony Bonaspina. Thanks, you guys, for being here.
Welcome, guys.
Well, thanks for having us.
It's a beautiful and kind of really very heartwarming story. I know, but I mean for me, but Albert, for you, it's about triumph over tragedy in a lot of ways, huh?
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry, but every time I hear that piece, it just wells me up. A lot of the things that we've done over the past number of years, really the vision that we've had through My Blind Spot and the vision that I've been given through the grace of God has allowed me to see things like I've never seen before. It's been fantastic.
Bert, how did all of this happen?
I was the executive director of a nonprofit in the South Bronx. We did direct service for 250 children and their families.
Wow.
All degrees of backgrounds, races. We did pre-K through after school, a pre-K program through 13-year-old for an after-school program. I apologize. And while I was there, I was exposed to a fungal spore that we thought had manifested itself as a sinus infection. It turned out to be full-blown meningitis. Took ill on December 9th, 2005, went down to 120 pounds. I'm usually about 195, 6'2", almost died. Had a tremendous spiritual awakening and left the hospital December 27th, 2006, totally blind. I'm an overachiever.
I mean, that's incredible. And then, Anthony, you come into the story. How do you get in there?
Well, about a little over a year ago, we were just at a family party and talking about what he's doing and so on like that. And I said, you know what, I definitely can help out. And so to that effect, we've kind of paired up a little over a year ago, and our efforts are kind of joined now at the hip. So we're going out and helping companies become accessible now.
Yeah, my blind spot was focused on the virtual walls, literal and figuratively, that I ran into. Each and every time I tried to assimilate back into either gainful employment or the management of my own finances, all the things that we as sighted people tend to take for granted. And we set our sights on working with an accounting software program because one of the things that Anthony and I both have in common is we're entrepreneurs, we have our own businesses or had our own businesses. And being able to manage your own finances independently, whether it's a corporation or as an individual, are what defines the success of each of us. And we went and set our sights on working with a company called Intuit, which is the manufacturer of the leading accounting software program, QuickBooks and Quicken.
Oh, yeah.
So we have made that accessible, and that is, we've got people who are blind and print disabled working for us. We went from a volunteer effort of 1 or 2 to about 10 to 12 people and corporations across the country working with us, some of whom are working gainfully and regularly for the first time, as well as about 40 or 50 accessibility testers who are now able to go back into accounting and bookkeeping for the first time.
Now, I don't know if I'm just naive, but I just assumed that in 2015 now, with the internet and social media, that you would be, no problem, you're blind, no problem. There's got to be something out there that can help you get through, navigate the media.
It's probably just the opposite, huh?
Yeah.
It's just the opposite.
I had no idea.
Accessibility is one of the best kept secrets in the world. We have, the United States is a beacon for accessibility and empowerment for people with disabilities. We have some of the best legislation in the world, yet we don't exercise or enforce those requirements. Anthony and I work very dedicatedly on 508 adherence with federal agencies. Anybody that's federally funded has to have an accessible website.
Okay.
The federal government only made their website truly accessible in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Really?
Well, if you take, sorry, Monsignor.
I just think from the perspective you're coming from, you carry a lot of credibility because you're a person who was sighted for a majority of his life, but now you're encountering it. So in a sense, are doors opening and ears kind of listening in a different way because of the fact that you say, hey, listen, I was there, and let me tell you, this is crazy. Do they listen?
It's slow. Unfortunately, they listen, but nothing happens.
Oh.
We've been trying, and that's the thing, we've been meeting with companies, telling them it is, and they think it's a great idea, but nothing progresses. There's a few instances, though, we are now making headway with a few companies.
I wouldn't say nothing is progressing. And to Monsignor's point, they are hearing what I'm saying. They're listening for the first time, and I've been given this gift of being a voice for some reason that makes it credible and possible to believe that any one of us could ostensibly join the disabled community through no choice of our own.
Yes.
This was not on my radar. I had 20/20 vision and lost it in 3 weeks. So to be able to, as Karen had intimated, come into the 21st century and anticipate technologies being able to replace certain aspects of my independence wasn't something I thought was too far out of the realm of possibility. But they're hearing me. One of the things, we had created a video, much like the one you saw before, about a real-life experience that happened to our Director of Finance, who's now working with us. Dixie Sanderson had lost her eyesight in 48 hours due to an allergic reaction to medication.
Wow.
Had her own bookkeeping business, Lighthouse Bookkeeping in Connecticut, Guilford, and she could not access the QuickBooks program no matter how hard she tried. And the goal of My Blind Spot and Intuit and the determination of how successful we were with what we did would have been determined by Dixie working, and she's working again. So
That's incredible.
Wow.
the technologies that are present today have been a tremendous leveling field. They level the playing field for all of us. And one of the things that Anthony and I have come to appreciate is, and I think this is where, again, Monsignor, where people will hear us and hear the need for addressing virtual access, is it's not just about blind people. There are a community of people that we refer to as print disabled. That includes people like Jim Brady, who just passed, traumatic brain injury, and Gabrielle Gifford, who was shot in Arizona.
Yes.
Sure.
They're print disabled, and they processed print in a different manner than you and I would. Well, you would. And then we have people, the usual suspects with sensory loss, whether it's a hearing impediment, a speech impediment, or a sight impediment. Then you also have people with mobility issues. We have people who have Parkinson's disease, MS, CP, stroke survivors, and our wounded warriors coming back
right.
missing limbs.
Sure.
Can't use a keyboard.
Speaking to independence, I was able to meet your beautiful dog. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about him?
He and I met on August 8th, 2006. I had tried to navigate New York City with a cane and had it broken 3 times in the first 3 months of being blind.
Lord.
And I was told that I would benefit greatly from a dog. And I met him on August 8th after 6 months. And his name is Doxology.
Wow, that's good.
And I mean, some of us know what the doxology is, but it by definition, as I learned more about it, it was a praise to God and a beginning. It was his beginning as a guide dog and my beginning as a blind person.
Aw.
And I just say now that I walk with the dog, I'm always walking in the light because dog spelled backwards is God.
There you go. I like that too. I like that. Now, what do you think's next for
exciting.
My Blind Spot? What do you think's the next thing up?
Well, we're definitely going to be, going after some larger companies now, as far as being able to make them meet with the CEOs, talk about accessibility.
Sure.
There's 25 million people in this country that are visually impaired.
Makes sense.
All right, 56,000 on Long Island alone.
Wow.
70% of them of working age are unemployed.
Wow.
That's
So
19 million people across the country who are unemployed or underemployed, just as severely visually impaired people.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and basically this is a market really that we're trying to put back to work, and
makes
we're
sense.
approaching these companies as this is an untapped market they haven't even been hitting.
Right.
Some of the companies we're dealing with are looking at it from that point. There's the social aspect of it, of doing the right thing, but there's also the profitability aspect. I mean, you're hitting a market that you never would have had tapped before.
It's sort of a win-win.
But we're working with large corporations and state agencies. We did some pro bono work with Suffolk County to make their website accessible, and we're waiting for them to launch that.
Wow.
We are currently contracted to work with Washington State to work on their fish and wildlife website.
Wow.
We are poised to start working with Cablevision to bring
Great.
accessibility to them for the first time.
Yeah.
And are engaged in discussions with a global investment firm.
Anthony, give us the website again.
Oh, it's myblindspot.org.
Okay, and people can go and learn more right about
Right off from
there,
that
right?
website, yes.
And they can write to us. I'm Albert at My Blind Spot. He's Anthony at My Blind Spot. And we can give you information about that.
Thank you both for being here.
Yeah,
Really,
thank
all
you,
three of you
guys.
for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Karen. Yes,
And
Yes,
obviously,
that's right.
definitely a treat, and also keep in touch. Let us know how this
Yes.
develops.
We're going to
because-
be
Can't
looking
wait.
to try and raise more money to do more things. We're a formal nonprofit, so
Love
if
it.
anybody has any philanthropic interest or benefactors that want to help a
Yeah.
dashingly handsome blind guy,
There you go.
And it's
Italian genius on the computer, let us know.
All right, that's pretty
Wonderful.
amazing, right?
It's a great
All right, we're going to
story.
take a quick break. We got lots more good news right after this.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Good to be with
Thank
you too.
you.
Thank you. Good to
Thank
be
you
with
so
you.
much. Good.
Welcome back, everyone. When our next guest was struck in a terrible hit and run in 2008, doctors said he'd never wake up. And yet he defied all odds. Not only did he wake up, but he's never given up. Less than 3 years later, he was walking across the stage at his college graduation. And through the support of his family, friends, and the community, he's shown that with hope and with prayer, you can achieve anything. And here to share his story of courage and determination is the man himself, Robert Aliano, and his parents, Nick and Lori. Thanks so much for being here, you guys.
Welcome.
Glad you could be here today.
So happy you're here.
Thank you for having
It's
Glad
our
you could be here.
pleasure.
Very
Yeah.
glad you could be here. Now, this is probably, I can't imagine, I'm thinking as I'm sharing this with everybody, this is the phone call no parent ever wants to get while your son's away at school, right? Is that how it kind of...
Like 2 o'clock in the morning, we got a phone call that he was hit by a car and broke his arm, and that we needed to come, and it's like about 2.5 hours from our house because it's in Connecticut and we're on Long Island.
Sure.
So we started the drive, me and my husband, and an hour into it, I called to see how he was, and the doctor got on the phone and told us everything.
Wow.
They didn't think he was going to make it.
They said he had a broken arm, and then they said they stuck a ventilator down his throat.
Oh.
I said,
They
why would you
intubated
do
him.
that with a
For a
broken
broken
arm?
arm,
You know,
right.
it must
Yeah.
be serious. And then,
Wow.
And then the doctor was telling he had 2 punctured lungs, he had brain, damage,
Wow.
his spleen, his bladder burst.
when we first got there, he said, the doctor had said, your son's not going to make it.
Oh my goodness.
So naturally, we just said, you got to make him. You got to make him whole. You got to go
do
back
whatever
in
you
there.
can.
He says,
Yeah.
"What do you want me to do?" He says, "He's just he's bleeding internally. There's nothing
Wow.
I can do."
Now, are you just
So he
in
went in
complete
there.
shock at the time, the two of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just prayer to start taking
We
over
we
at
just
that
started
point?
praying. Yeah,
I
yeah.
would imagine.
We started praying in the car. As soon as we heard, it was like,
Sure.
oh my God, please,
Unbelievable.
And and we have 5 other children.
Oh, wow.
So I called a family friend and told
Yeah.
at like 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock, whatever it was, and called him and said, you got to get all my other kids here. And so he went to my house and he picked all the other kids up and he was racing there too because they said he wasn't going to make it. And,
My first memories was me waking up and not being able to do what I want to do.
Okay. So but you have that memory of waking up not being able to do what you want to do. But then that was how long into
Yeah.
it? I mean,
he was in a coma for 6 weeks,
Oh,
and then
boy.
he was.
Jeez.
Then we had brought him to a rehab in New Jersey, and he
Is that
was
the one, the Kessler Institute?
Kessler. That's
yeah.
where Superman had gone and
Yes,
everything.
yes, right.
And
right.
he was there for 4 months, but it was about a month into it that he was like in a vegetated state where he was starting to do a few movements and stuff, and then he became minimally conscious, and that's when he started reacting a little bit more, moving his eyes and all.
Yeah.
Originally, when we were at Kessler, they had said, "Your son's not making any commands, Mr. Aliano. This isn't a place for him. We're a rehab center."
Right, right.
So all of a sudden that weekend, he had a different therapist, and a different therapist administered a little pain to one of his arms, and he reacted to it. And that was the first time he ever got
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
command.
And then after that, he just started getting better and better.
Well, clearly you're a fighter. I mean, it's very obvious. Was he always a fighter as a kid?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It's part of his personality.
Yeah, he was, he was always like the protector of everyone, and
He was the
you know,
captain of the wrestling team. at
Really?
Miller
Say,
Place
you're not
4
a
years in
scrawny
a row.
guy. I mean,
No,
like,
no.
you got muscles and stuff. So I mean, you must even to this day still be working out and
He wa-
stuff, right?
I work out twice a week.
Twice a
Good
week you
for
work
you.
out.
well, with a weightlifter, and then
Yeah.
3 times a week with his karate
with a
instructor.
karate instructor.
Oh, yeah. Now, is
Yeah.
that something you did before your accident, karate?
He did that when he was like 9 or 10 years
Yeah.
old. All the kids had taken karate lessons, so the karate instructor, knew him.
Yeah.
And my husband brought him back. When we were finally out of the rehab, he brought him in, to see if there's anything he could help him, and he really,
He said Robert wasn't even able to sit up on his own.
Right.
And Jerry Figiani from East Coast Black Belt Karate picked him up, and I said, "What do you think you can do with him?" And he says, "I'll make him a black belt."
No.
Wow.
Yeah, I said, "Come on," So he worked with him
that's something.
constantly and
Wow.
constantly, and it was the best rehab.
It turns out that you graduate college, right?
yeah.
So you walk across the stage to get your diploma.
Yeah,
that must
was
have been an amazing moment,
that was
right?
amazing. 2 years after the accident.
It's incredible.
Go figure.
I was 10 credits short.
Yeah.
10
was 10
credits is
credits
like
short.
three courses,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
right?
3 courses in a paper.
And a paper.
Yeah.
He was an
Yeah.
A+ student
Yeah.
at Quinnipiac, so it was a tough college.
Yeah.
And so they said, that helped him a lot,
Yeah.
the fact that he was, and his strength played a big role because of being the captain of the wrestling team and working out every day.
Yeah, yeah.
They had told us many a time that it was a miracle how
Yeah.
he would have tremors. His heart rate was so high.
Okay,
They said
good.
it was like racing on a treadmill doing 7.2 for an hour and a half. How do you think you could do? You know, but
Wow.
he was able to keep up with it. And
Maintain it
Yeah.
somehow.
They said if he wasn't physically fit, and if he wasn't if he was a couch potato and he wasn't using his brain, it never would have came back as much as it did.
Wow.
And same with his body. If he, but he worked out, and I mean, they still say 1 hour in the gym for him is like 4 hours for us because it's that much harder for him.
Sure.
And the kid never gives up. He
gives up.
never
He's
stops.
Clearly.
It's amazing.
God had the biggest role to do with no matter what.
Yeah.
When we were there at Yale, they said, your son has no real brain. They said the main stem, when they did their MRI, it looked black and it looked like it was badly damaged. So we don't have much hope for your son. I says, well, what are my odds? They said, Mr. Aliano, it says it's 99% we're sure.
Wow.
I said, okay, good. Then
And
we
that's
got
at Yale,
1%.
you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were very good to us. They were good. It's just faith that what brought them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that.
miraculous.
Like, did you pray along the road here with all of this?
A little bit here and there.
They would take care of it.
A little bit. But after my faith when got so much stronger.
Really, did it get stronger after all that? It's amazing, huh?
And now you've
Amazing.
started this Given a Second Chance workshop. What is that?
Jerry Ficiani. Ficiani.
Okay, that's the
Mark
karate
White.
instructor that you work with. Yeah. So you do this together?
We do talks
Okay.
in front of our school.
Wow. Wow.
They cover a lot of things, never give up.
Yeah.
They talk about, bullying and stuff because not that he gets bullied, but people make fun of him sometimes, like if they don't understand because of the way he walks or talks.
Sure.
And just never, just never giving up.
The PAL endorsed Robert that they will allow Robert and Jerry, his karate, to go to any school throughout New York State,
Wow.
and they will pay for it.
Wow.
So
That's pretty
we attended Ronkonkoma School with 1,500 students.
Isn't that great?
And if you look online, you could see the reaction of the kids'
It must
faces.
make you proud,
They
though,
were-
as parents,
yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
what do we want? We want our kids to use their gifts and what they can to bring
Exactly.
hope to others. And this is
So proud of him.
This guy's living this every day.
Yeah.
Now, you have a website, too? That's what they're saying? You have a website?
Given a second chance.
So now that would be like if somebody if they want to get you to come, say to speak to, a youth group or say like I'm thinking like Boy Scouts and stuff.
Right,
This would
right.
be a very inspirational thing for a bunch of young people to hear.
Yeah, churches, anything.
That kind of
really.
thing would be
Yeah.
okay to contact
Sure.
you through that?
Sure. You can't give up, and
That's right.
God has a purpose for him because he survived. He was hit by a car walking across the street, went 50 feet up in the air.
Yeah, go figure, right?
And
And
there
that
was a
could-
reason he survived.
That could be any of our children.
That's right.
Unfortunately,
Somebody could
any
fall
day
out of
the
a
week,
car
right?
and
Phone call away.
die.
Yeah.
For him to, so there's definitely a reason that he survived, and and he's trying to find it, and he wants to work through God and and help as many people as he can.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
Really, I
great.
love
That's
it.
a
This is-
miracle.
It is a
We
miracle.
call this show Good News for a reason, and
That's
that's exactly
right.
what it's
It's
about.
good
It's about
news.
good news, man. That's terrific. Well, thank you guys
Yeah,
for being here. I'm
thank
so glad you were
you.
here.
Thanks,
Very
Bob.
Thank
inspirational.
you.
Thank you.
You'll have to come back and
Keep up the
talk
great
some more
work.
with us because I think you got a great
Yeah.
story, and I think people would love to hear more too. don't you
Oh,
think?
absolutely.
That's a good thing. Thanks so much for
Thank
being
you
here. We're
so
so
much.
glad you were
Thank
here.
you, guys.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We have lots more to go, so stick around. Welcome back, everyone. Well, an encouraging program today, to say the least, right?
Yes. These are my
incredible.
favorite episodes.
It's incredible. And you know
They
what
are
the funny thing is?
inspiring.
There are people everywhere in this world who have lived the triumph
Yes.
over difficulty, right?
Yes.
It's incredible.
And if it's not you, you know somebody who
Without
has.
a doubt, you never have
They're
to go
the
far,
best stories.
right, to find those stories.
Yes.
And even in the scriptures, again and again and again, we see these stories of the Lord healing people, changing their lives forever, and how their lives being forever changed affects so many other people as well. I'm thinking recently of one of my favorite gospels that we had at a daily mass, where Jesus goes to the home of a little girl whose dad came up to Jesus saying, "Please, my daughter is home. She's dying. She has died, and we need you." And he goes to the house and he says, she's not dead. Your daughter is sleeping. And he says to the little girl, "Talitha koum, little girl, arise." And she gets up and begins to walk around, and people are amazed. And think of how their lives are forever changed by that encounter with Christ. Christ Christ encounters us in all of the difficulties of our lives, in those moments of pain, in those moments of struggle, in those moments where we look to heaven and say, where are you, God? Right here with you, right at your bedside, right with your family, right in the funeral home with you, right in the struggle with you, in the midst of your tears. I'm right there with you. There is triumph over tragedy. Somehow, the day after struggle, we get up the next day. How does that ever happen? I think that's about faith. I think it's about hope, and it's about God's love for us. And so when you're up against it, don't give up. No, we have to continue on. If you're watching right now from a hospital bed, if you're preparing for surgery, if you just got bad news, whatever it is, God hasn't abandoned. No, God is drawn near, and that presence of God will be felt, I think, if you have the hope that we've witnessed in those guests that we had with us today. So it's kind of important, right?
It's so important. And I think about it as a parent, there's nothing as helpless feeling as when your child is sick.
Yeah.
But to be able to pray and to have faith, that's what gets people
It's going to matter
through.
more than anything, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of important. So hope you enjoyed our show. You're inspired.
Great show. I am. You can tell,
Inspired
right?
too. Both
Yeah,
of us are
definitely.
inspired. Hope you are too. Remember, whatever you do this week,
Keep on spreading the good news.
God bless you. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.